Okay, good afternoon. It's just turned 2 o'clock. Welcome to Economy and Infrastructure Corporate Development Committee, Delivery Committee. Before I move into the agenda, shall we nip round the room just to introduce everybody? I'm Councillor Philip Downing. Obviously, I'm chairing because I'm sitting here. And to my right is...
Good afternoon. My name is Samantha Woon. I'm Democratic Services Officer.
Scott Demmett, Legal.
Paul Ralph, Economic Development and External Funding Manager.
Claire James, Economic Development Manager.
And Councillor Mike White, one of the members of the committee.
Mark Wade, I'm Interim Director of Place.
And as you go on the screen, the way you can see it, Wendy.
Wendy Lewis, Councillor for Wanaloi.
Stuart.
Councillor Stuart Rice for the Uplands.
Yeah, Paul.
Good afternoon. It's Councillor Paul Lloyd for Bonamine Ward.
And Vice Chair Ryland.
Hello, good afternoon. Yeah, Ryland, Vice Chair, Councillor for Trans Hamlet.
Yeah. And the person that doesn't want to be seen, Will Thomas.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
There we are.
Councillor Will Thomas Mumbles, thanks.
Yeah. And Penny.
So, Councillor Penny Matthews, Trans Hamlet Ward.
Okay, thank you all. So that's everybody this year. Item 1 is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Nicola Matthews.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Phil Holmes won't be with us this afternoon. When I spoke to him this morning, he was waiting for a doctor's appointment, and he's eventually had one for 2:15. So good timing. Item 2, disclosures of personal and prejudicial interests. Will?
Thanks, Chair. If I just take this opportunity to say I'll be having to pick my kids up for 5 minutes just over the road and back at about 3:20. So I'll have them in the office, but just to let you know, thank you.
If it's 3:20, I think we'll be all with you, Will. No other interests, no other hands up. Item 3 is to approve and sign the minutes of the previous meetings as correct records. Have we all read them? All agree? I can see thumbs up. So that's agreed. Item 4 then is a local economic development fund. We've all had the report. So Claire will take us through it, but I don't know if Paul, if you want to say a few words first or do you want to say a few words after?
But perhaps just a little bit of context. Claire and I have been working now with the region for Southwest region for since the pandemic, really, on the regional version of what is now, we want to create the local version of this regional economic delivery plan. And I think the key message, and it'll come out in what Claire talks about, is we wanted it to be about the Wales we recognise around us. So the missions that you see in the regional version of the document about micro business being the backbone of the economy, the need to green the economy, you know, the fundamentals really that we recognise as the lifeblood of the economy and what we need to be looking after now in these difficult times. So maybe just that to provide a bit of context, and I'll let Claire get into the detail.
Thank you.
It's on to you, Claire.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so the report is covering a new local economic delivery plan that we will draft over the next few months. Just to set the context, as Paul said, we've got a regional economic delivery plan, which came to the committee last year, some may remember, and has been adopted as council economic policy. But to complement that now and expand on the local level, really, and all the local activities we're doing in Swansea, we're looking to put in place a local economic delivery plan. So we've got the regional context through the regional plan, and this will sit alongside that, alongside the regional economic delivery plan, which is, you've got an overview in the report, so I won't go through that. We've also got the Economic Recovery Action Plan, which is a Swansea-specific document that we wrote during the COVID pandemic. Again, came to the committee was approved in March 21. So the key aims of that were looking at raising confidence, particularly around driving footfall in the city and the district centres, supporting businesses, championing local food, particularly building on the increase in local food that we saw through the pandemic, supporting tourism, again, a sector that was heavily hit through all the closures, developing skills and employability, and then looking forward to a sustainable economic recovery. So the proposal for the local economic delivery plan is it will take the framework from the regional document and will bring in then the local aims and objectives that were developed through the economic recovery action plan. We've got, as you can see in section 3, we've got a broad evidence base that we can draw on for this local plan. Extensive analysis was undertaken in preparing the regional version, which had Swansea specific information. And a lot of information has been done over the last year as well, as part of the preparation of the Swansea Wellbeing Plan. So we have lots of local data, and the challenges really that we're facing, as summarised in the report, are things like the need for post-COVID support and recovery. We need to grow the business base locally. If you look at a city the size of Swansea, really compared with others of similar scale, while we've got a healthy level of number of businesses being formed, the size of our business base is smaller. On average, we've got around about 508 businesses for every 10,000 population. In Wales, it's 539 businesses, and the UK is even higher at 718. So, you know, there's a real opportunity there to support new business starts and grow the business base that we've got in Swansea. And we would see that in the same way that's a key objective of the regional economic delivery plan, that would be a key part of any local plan that we do as well. Similarly, you know, a lot of businesses in Swansea, 98.2% are micro and small scale. You know, we're really looking to support that sector of the economy, support these businesses to grow. You know, they're vital for the economic growth in the county and the creation of well-paid jobs. Not forgetting productivity, we still have low productivity in Swansea when you compare that with the rest of the UK. Our GVA per hour worked, which is the output that somebody would produce in working for an hour, is 85.9% of the UK average. So potential there to improve that. Wage rates, again, they've been growing. You know, the latest data, they were growing better than Wales and UK, but again, we're still 91% of the UK average. So potential there, that's another area of focus. Unemployment and inactivity, again, our rates are lower than Wales and UK, so work is going on and will continue to happen in that area. Skills gaps in the local economy, and needs to upskill people to take advantage of new opportunities, particularly in things like renewable energy, but also addressing gaps that we've got at the moment. You know, well-known issues in the care sector, hospitality and construction in terms of finding labour. Other issues we need to address, the household income gap. Again, in Swansea, it's lower than the UK average. That links in with areas of deprivation across the county and a need to address that. And obviously creating sustainable, well-paid employment is a key aspect of this. And then looking more at the sort of the physical regeneration side, in terms of supporting businesses and providing spaces for them to grow. We do have a lack of high quality office space. We're regularly getting inward investment inquiries that we don't necessarily have the space that can accommodate them. We have a lot of our office supply is not really of the quality and the standard that current occupiers are looking for. But as I'm sure you've heard in the past, there's a viability gap. So private sector, it's not viable for them to invest. So the public sector needs to step in. So all of these sorts of issues, along with climate change, the need to reach net zero, addressing the digital changes and new models of working, all of these are sort of the local economic context that we would be looking for this plan to address. So then going on, just in terms of the preparation of the plan, we haven't started yet. This is, we're bringing you the outline of what we intend to do. So we're looking at producing a document that will include obviously an executive summary, the strategic context, which pulls in the documents I've mentioned, and wider things like the Wellbeing and Future Generations Act, covers the economic context that I've given you a very quick summary of, then setting out a framework that gives our aims and objectives, and then an action plan that gives the tangible things we'll be doing to help us to achieve these. So if you look at section 4.3, the timeline for this, I should say we're not doing this just in isolation. We've got a very active regeneration partnership in Swansea called Regeneration Swansea. We regularly have attendance of 30 members, don't we? Public, private, voluntary sector, all the key people involved in regeneration in the county come along to the partnership. So all these pieces of work we do in consultation with them. So we will work very closely with the partnership on the development of the local economic delivery plan. We'll be doing that in February and March, draft strategic framework in April. We have got a recommendation at the start of the report that we would come back to you in May with the next report, but in consultation with the chair, that will now be in April. So we'll come back in April with a draft of the strategic framework. After that, we'll go on to produce the action plan and the draft document with the aim that the final version will be completed by September. So I think that's a very quick overview of what we intend to do. So I'll leave it there and hand back to the chair.
Sorry, Councillor Rice, telling you what to do and I'm not doing it. Okay, so off you go.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of quick things before a couple of questions. A couple of personal interests. I noted obviously in the report and from what Claire has just said as well, I'm a member of staff of the Pembrokeshire Trust, which is a tourist-based attraction, and I know that's one of the main themes within the document. And also, I'm the owner of a brewery, which is obviously in your local food area. So I just wanted to make sure I put those at the brewery's Lucky Chancer. So just a couple of quick questions to follow up from there. I think the key thing with the development of strategy is to look at the enablers, the things which will help us be able to achieve the things that we want to do. And there are a couple of areas I think we need to look a little bit of work on. The first area, a lot of businesses feel that they get held up in planning, and I don't mean that as a critique of the planning department and the staff there. I think it's probably the same for lots of parts of the UK at the moment, where there's a lack of resources or number of officers that we probably need there, and we're also held up by areas of where we have to speak to other agencies, people like Natural Resources Wales. I think that's an area which would be quite good. And I know that Carmarthenshire looks at having a consortium where they speak to local businesses and developers about how to try and ease people through the process of planning, because I think there would probably be some more inward investment if we could make that process easier. And the second thing, I think probably a lot of people would agree on this one in terms of enablers, is if we could improve public transport around the city. A lot of people find it very difficult to get to where the work is. Certainly if many jobs come up in the enterprise zone and areas like that, and the transportation across the city, especially for those who are on a lower paid work and wages, is quite difficult. So being able to invest in proper subsidised bus travel and other elements to be able to help people into work, I think would be really useful, because I think that tends to be a bit of a barrier to get the employees that people need, and also for employees to get to work. But the other area I noticed in the plan, which I think is a good area to concentrate on, is the idea of net zero and the circular economy. And I do think there's plenty of opportunities to look at what's happening in Denmark with making sure that there's a zero waste approach to business, where each company's waste becomes the other company's supplies. And if you look at something like Kalundborg, there's a good model there. And I think that's certainly worth looking at. I'm aware that there is a current bid in for a free port for Pembrokeshire and Newport Talbot. And I'd be interested to hear about what we think we might be able to gain from that, or if there's anything that we need to be prepared for if we feel that there might be a suck of investment from Swansea into Newport Talbot. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Stuart. Anybody with any comments on it?
Yeah, I think I mean the planning point does come up frequently. There is a forum, I believe, where a level of discussion does take place. But if we take that back, and we'll report back on that in writing. The
Travel.
So the travel side of it is it's fundamental, and it's integrated. And I mean, I think there's that also forms part of the regional plan. But I know there are plans afoot to look at, for example, the cross-valley links, and that does include the enterprise zone, and it is an important one, and it does come up frequently with employability work we're involved with, of the frequency of services to more inaccessible parts of the county. But also, I guess, there's the principle of attempting to get job opportunities located in the more accessible places, particularly the city centre and the district town centres, which is the focus really of the plan. And that is also partly covered by what we're talking about with the new ways of working. It does have an impact, but also the impact on inward investment that Sue Wood within our team is regularly working on, and the ability to get people to those sites is a factor. So it will be picked up in the plan for definite, and there do have to be crossovers with planning and highways and other parts of the council, housing and others, because to get an integrated approach, you have to accommodate all of those things. We do need to remain focused on the missions, we think, but yeah, absolutely, those things will be picked up. And the circular economy, it's fundamental really, and I think it's part of the 3 missions for the regional document, Claire, isn't it? That that principle underpins everything, and the micro enterprises we're talking about, which is virtually the whole of our business base, they do need to feed off each other, and that is a really good point, and we can make sure that there's work included on that. Is there anything you want to add, Claire?
Yeah, I guess just on that, on the circular economy and net zero, would agree that is an important area. Obviously, the city has an ambition to be net zero by 2050, so our businesses have a big part to play in that. So going forward, we are looking at the introduction of a carbon reduction grant, if we're successful with our Shared Prosperity Fund bid, to support businesses to reduce their carbon and contribute towards that net zero. So definitely an area we're working on, and will be a big part of the local economic delivery plan. The other one was the free ports. Now that's Swansea's not, it's a regional bid, isn't it? But it's Newport Talbot and Pembrokeshire are leading that. But I believe that the opportunities for Swansea and that will be in terms of the supply chain. And I believe it's working closely with sort of renewable energy sectors, that type of thing. And there will be opportunity for Swansea businesses to feed into that. So I think there's a piece of work going on regionally at the moment, looking at mapping supply chains, and we are taking part in that, and we've got officers attending the meeting. So that's the key opportunity there, I think, but more will come obviously as the bid progresses, and fingers crossed that the regional bid will be successful.
Okay, thank you for that. Just on the public transport bit of it for Stuart, it's not just the city centre that's struggling with public transport at this moment in time. It's people in the outlying areas who can't get to work. And I think this is something that I don't know whether we would be looking at it or another CDC, but I know one of us will be looking at it. Thanks for those remarks. Will?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just a quick question, really. I'm just always intrigued how productivity is worked out. I hear a lot of people talking about productivity in different areas of the country. I'm always intrigued how that stat is quantified, please.
Yeah, I can cover that. Well, we're very fortunate in that the Office for National Statistics produces the data on that, so it's not something we have to develop locally. So they look at output across the UK. I believe they look at where jobs and businesses are located and then use that data. So there are different measures you can use. The one we're looking at is output per, in the report, I think we've got the output per, there's per hour and per, who's going for it, sorry. There we are, GVA per hour worked, which is the best one to use really, because if you have an economy where you've got lots of people that work part-time, if you look at GVA per employee, it's not such an accurate measure. So it's best to look at GVA per hour worked. So that literally shows you the productivity, the output that is produced by somebody when they work for 1 hour across the economy.
Okay, Will?
Yeah, I suppose still a bit confused as to how they work it out, but I'll do some digging. Thank you.
Oh yeah, not like you to be confused. Yeah, Mike, apologies, Mike. You did indicate before Will, but it just shows that how unbiased I am. Okay.
Well, I'll see. Favour in the West. Never mind. Right. Right. A couple of points. Do we know how many small businesses we have, obviously, within the city and surrounding areas? And also, are there any incentives for that to help them expand? And also, what is the involvement with BID? Are they part of the consortium?
Okay, we can get the numbers for the number of businesses in the city. I haven't got it to hand. I'll try and dig that out for you. Yes, we do have incentives. We have been running this year a startup grant that small businesses were able to access if they were setting up in Swansea. That's another one that we are hoping to bring back through shared prosperity funding. So we'd be looking at having a startup grant, which would be a small amount of money for a business to set up in Swansea. We're also looking then, a new grant that we haven't done before would be a growth grant. So that would be for existing businesses that are looking to grow and to create employment. They would need to be creating employment to access the grant. As I mentioned, there's a carbon reduction grant we're looking at too with net zero. So a very small supplier accreditation grant for a company that, if they need to get a particular accreditation to be able to win contracts, for example, if they're looking at tendering for a council contract, we need a particular accreditation for them to access that and they don't have it. We've identified that this is a barrier to companies winning work with us or other large companies. So we're looking at that, and also very small website development grant for companies that are looking to upgrade or introduce a website, maybe to bring e-commerce, so they've got another strand of generating revenue to help them grow their business. So we will hopefully, coming into the new financial year, have a suite of grants available to support businesses in Swansea. And alongside that, we are fortunate to have 2 business development officers that run our Business Swansea programme. So they administer the grant, but they also work with companies. So they will signpost them to other support that's available, working closely with things like Business Wales. Also with, you mentioned Swansea BID. They work with the BID. The BID are a member of our regeneration partnership. So we do work closely there with them as well.
Yeah, if I may, because I know that there are a lot of local family businesses as well, you know, that are keen to keep up, operating and obviously keeping the family name in Swansea. So that's why I asked really what incentives really. Thank you.
Yeah, in addition to what Claire's outlined, and wide, it's fair to say these grants would be available wide to county. They're not necessarily targeted only at the city centre. We have also been rolling out funding through the economic recovery funds through the business improvement grant, and I think 210 businesses so far have had direct support through that of up to 10k. There's another 170 being worked on at the moment, and that is going directly to exactly the businesses you're talking about, Councillor White. As well as that, for the next scale up, where we talked about the fiscal regen, there's a raft of facilities available through the Transforming Towns programme, zero interest loan grants of varying scales, from the placemaking grant of up to 250k up to larger scale grants for a number of the developments you'll know are going on around the city centre, and subject to development of place plans in each of the district town centres, which is your likes of Morriston, Gorstein and Clydach, Mumbles and others. We'll be able to roll those support measures out in those districts as well. Obviously, there's only so much money to go around, and budget is obviously an issue, but where we can top that up through the likes of Shared Prosperity Fund, a Levelling Up Fund, we'll seek to do that. But certainly these smaller schemes, it's very much designed with the types of businesses you describe in mind, Councillor White.
And I think the important thing is when grants are available, it's the comms that go along with it, so that everybody knows about the grants. It's no one coming back when they finish and say, well, we didn't know about the grants, and I think we're working hard on it. I think it was part of scrutiny at one time, looking at businesses and how do we reach the smaller businesses, and that was a good piece of work, and is proving fruitful for small businesses.
So I guess when Claire mentioned Matt and Steve, our business development officers, and they maintain, it's fair to say every bit of support we put out, we ask the businesses if they want to join our mailing list. We have an extensive mailing list, which I think has already got at least 2,000 businesses on it. So even if we can't support them through one scheme, we try to find a way of signposting them to something else suitable, and we keep that information in mind when things like Shared Prosperity Fund are coming up. The reason we're designing the schemes we are is based on feedback from businesses, and it can be difficult to get to everybody, but I think at the moment the number of businesses that have been helped either through some form of COVID support or the recovery fund money, it runs into hundreds of businesses that would otherwise, often we get the feedback that they would have failed without it. So, and obviously we do have, there can be capacity issues with the volume that we're dealing with at once, but and that's part of the thinking with the Shared Prosperity Fund schemes we're planning as well, to make sure that we have the resource to get things out quickly. But certainly communication wise, we're pushing that mailing list as much as we can, and there's a lot of other support that Matt and Steve can provide through seminars and referrals and all sorts of other things on a fortnightly basis, Claire, the newsletter. So any businesses you know that aren't on that, they can sign up through the council website very easily.
One of the questions I was going to ask was on Regeneration Swansea, but you answered who was on it. How often do they meet? Was one question, and the other one I have read about a retail strategy. Don't ask me where I read it. Would this link into that, or is it something completely different to the delivery plan?
Right, yeah, Regeneration Swansea meets monthly. It has been online through COVID, but we're going back to in-person meetings now. And the way we work it, we don't have a fixed chair. A different organisation, one of the partners chairs each month. So we keep rotating it around. So that works quite well, doesn't it?
It's nowhere to hide.
Yeah, it works like that.
But we set the agenda. We set the agenda.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, in consultation with the cabinet member, and then one of the partners chairs for us. Retail capacity study, separate piece of work, but obviously the findings of that will feed in and have a bearing on. It'll be part of the evidence base that we would consider when we produce the local economic delivery plan.
just to follow up on that then. So that strategy is taking place now. The retail strategy.
Microphone is difficult. It's a piece of work that is to be commissioned. So that's looking at the way that retail is changing, particularly in the city centre, and the zoning of the city centre is my understanding. Looking at footfall patterns and where we can help support retail in the city centre. That's my understanding. It's a separate piece of work that will feed into this.
Yeah, perhaps I'll speak to the cabinet member to see if that would need to come to us. You know, to see if, because when it comes to us, we'll be discussing it every so many months, so we can see that it is moving forward, because I think it's an important piece of work. Right, thank you, three of you, for coming along.
Claire has just found the figure of the number of businesses. So
And,
it's current, the stock is that 2020 was 7,930 businesses in the county. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
I think we've supported quite a hefty proportion of that number with some form of support of one type or another through what we've been delivering so far. And there's scope to do a lot more with the future plans.
Maybe we're lucky they don't all come in at the same time. Right, if there are no more questions. Okay, thank you very much. That was very good. And like you said, you will be coming back to us in April with what you've got, and then obviously we'll have another look at it then. Okay, thank you again. We've only got one other item on the agenda, sorry, it's the work plan. You've all had a copy of the work plan, and February we'll have the update from Swansea Residents Rewards, and we have been asked by bid to either have a workshop, but we'll have a look at legal whether we go into camera afterwards, because they want to demonstrate it before it goes out into the public domain. And then we got the Tower Riverside and the levelling up, so that'll come to us in February. March, I've spoken to Phil Holmes, and we're looking at the introduction of the Swansea Bay strategy coming into March. We're supposed to have looked at it earlier on in the year, but that was put off. So we hope that'll come to us in March. April is set as the draft strategy framework, and then we'll see where we go from there. So we're all happy with that. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Nothing else? Nobody's indicating. Thank you very much for attending. We'll see you next month. Thank you.